Okay, welcome everybody, and I'm glad that you all could join for today's webinar, the third webinar in the series on water smart solution. And this is interesting, though the title is water smart solution, but this particularly is not about water. And we have taken this detour very purposefully because we have been learning about water issues and the initiative different partners are doing. But let's just also understand that how do we going to put this in concept and going to put that in on paper. And that's the reason today, taking a slight detour into the entire plan, we have today invited Ramya Pandyan, and we actually wanted to have her during the orientation workshop, and but could not have at that time, didn't happen. So welcome. We have a long association, and I must kind of wanted to refresh my memory of what we have done in Mumbai substantially with almost 100 fellows like you. We had a fellowship program, and she was one of the mentor and as well as guiding them in a lot of programs on communication and media for social change program. So welcome, and I'm glad that you could join us from Mumbai. And this is only could happen actually because of COVID only this could happen, that you're here from Mumbai, and there she's telling me it's raining pretty badly. Can we just go back to the, if you can kind of stop sharing this one. We just want to have your profile back. Yeah. Sanjay, the profile back. Yeah. Huh. Yes. We just want to, yeah. Session, what we have today thought, let's just put the topic of this session, writing skills. Because I'm sure, and we have two set of deliverables from your side. Fellows, you have already submitted to us, and there are some very great piece of work that you have done. But there's always scope, there's always to look at better, there's always to set good and different benchmark. And for that purpose, this particular session is planned to look at what is exactly writing skill. And our speaker today, she's a writer, performer, and a content publisher. And I think is there on the screen, the profile, but most important part for me, the way I connected with her is the kind of energy that brings in with her, the positivity that brings she get that on the table. And that is very, very important when you actually think about a concept and how you really put it together, and you bring that positivity to the entire concept is also equally important. And we had wonderful sessions in past, and I'm looking forward to this session. And thank you once again for joining. And Veena ji, thank you very much. Where are you? So we just also wanted to say hi to you. Last time Veena ji had a lot of network issue, and I'm sure today she'll be all through with us. And fellows, if we can have all your cameras switched on for the photo opportunity, that'll be nice. And then yeah, you can go back to your isolations later. Yeah, please, can I have your cameras on, please, everybody?
Thank you, Alka, and thank you, Ramya, for joining, and all the fellows.
Yes, great. Amrita, if you can just, go back a bit so that entire, face can be, otherwise it's very, yeah, perfectly, a bit far. Yes, yes, Shweta, Upma, Preeti, Sanjay. Yeah, we can have all cameras switched on, that'll be nice. Preeti and Upma, you're there? We're just waiting for some more so that the picture entire screen looks great. Okay, Preeti, Sanjay, can you switch on your camera, please? Sudha, if you can just join Sanjay there. Yeah. Okay, I think, yeah, Upma, Preeti, fine. Okay, Ananya, we are just having this photo opportunity. And we can say cheese now because it was earlier. Okay, great. Yeah, great. Okay, yes, let's just go back to the business of the day. Yes, Ramya, welcome to you, and please take over, and we'll have the presentation or discussion with her. She has key pointers, followed by obviously the questions. The question that you can ask from the perspective of your deliverables, and obviously in future how you go about writing your papers or writing your reports. Yeah, yes. Over to you.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Alkaji, for having me back. It's always such a pleasure meeting young people who are just starting on their careers, their journeys, and these are all people who are going out to do some very remarkable things. So that's very commendable. And I love writers. I love writing. So it's always, this is fun for me. So Alkaji has already given you a little bit of my background, which is fantastic because I had a slide with my background and that one slide is not opening. So we're going to make do without that. I do have a PowerPoint presentation, but it's a it's just an indicative list, so I don't forget something that that might be of value to you later. So feel free to take notes. I would heavily recommend, please make notes. Note taking is the first step for anyone creating content or anyone doing writing. Now I'm just going to start sharing. This is also my first time on Microsoft Teams, so now and then there may be a little uh, blips and bloopers, so just bear with me on that. Like Alkaji mentioned, I would like to address questions as well with you. I'd like this to be interactive and of value. So let me run through these slides. I won't be able to look at the comments while the slide is open. But what I suggest is definitely put up your thoughts and comments in the comment section, and I'll come back and look at them once the presentation is done. Plus, do make a note of any important questions you have relating to your deliverables, because then we'll definitely address them once the slides are through. All right. Now, you'll notice the name on the slide is different from what Alkaji mentioned. And that's because, writing is a really, really vast subject. It's a lifetime of learning. I'm still learning after more than 20 years of writing. We are today, I think, going to specifically focus on formal writing. I originally called it business writing, but what you're doing is not exactly business, though the skills required and the techniques are very similar. So this is formal writing as opposed to creative writing. I'd just like you to keep that in mind. Now, this is, okay, I'm just going to figure out how to move the slide. Okay, are you able to actually see the slide? Alkaji, could you just confirm?
Yes, I think we all can see the slides. Fine.
All's well that ends well. This slide is the one that was not opening. But this is me. Alkaji has mentioned. I have a fairly diverse background. I'm a management professional and I've worked in very corporate jobs, advising on business processes and large projects. And I've always loved writing. So about 10 years ago, I took off on my own and I've been doing a lot of writing since then. Which has then transitioned into content. Content is more than just writing. So I publish on a bunch of different channels, my own as well as other platforms. I'm also a performer. I also have conducted about 300 webinars, something I forgot to mention, but I'm doing this after a while. So again, I'm a little rusty on those. Now let's get down to some brass tacks. Writing at the foremost, and especially the kind of writing that you and I are going to be doing, is about information. It's not about how beautiful your language is or how lovely your ideas are. Your ideas are very important, but first and foremost, it's about information, which means that that information has to be very easy to navigate. Some of you who may be interested in design or art may have heard of good design is invisible. And it's very similar when it comes to formal or professional writing. The effort should not show, meaning that whoever is reading it or consuming that content should not have to scratch their head wondering what it is you're trying to say. It should come through to them before they even realize they're already at the end of the piece. And that's what I consider a really well-written piece. It informs and in a way that is easy for the reader to navigate. It should be self-explanatory. If you need to come in with a preamble, if you need to explain something beforehand, then that's not really good at all. And in line with the same thing, I'm a big fan of small, simple words. I don't like jargon at all because jargon is very alienating. Not everyone may understand that particular jargon. While you may be all in the same field right now for this project, so there may be certain terms that you expect everyone to understand. The best thing would be if anybody can understand it. Now, for instance, I have this entire background in business and in writing, but I know nothing about water preservation. I know that water is important. I know that it's a very one of the major issues that environmentalists are thinking about. I know that population and economics, all of these play a role in it. And I know that the pandemic probably has caused a lot of other issues. But I don't really know what is being done. I don't know the facts and figures. I don't know what the short forms are. So in a lot of ways, I'm your target audience. Because eventually the work you're doing is not just about talking to people who are also in the field, but you need to talk to the whole world really, right? Because this is a problem that impacts the entire planet. So you need to be able to talk to someone like me. You need to be able to talk to someone who may not really have that level of vocabulary. So your writing is really only effective if it goes through to every member, every person who reads it. So keep that in mind. And if you're worrying about maybe English may not be your first language, and I say that because in last year's batch there were a few people who were not as comfortable in English, but they turned out some excellent work. So I really don't want you to feel like language stands in the way. In this case, at least, this is formal writing where it's not the language that matters. It's not how beautifully you express yourself. It's the fact that you express yourself in a clear way. I cannot stress this enough. So keep your mind on that goal always, to keep it as simple and accessible as possible. Now I know that. Okay, so this is a little bit from me to you. Since I've done so much in the field of processes, I thought you might like to see an actual process chart on how I think one way to approach formal writing. I'll give you a few minutes, a few seconds to just look through this chart. Now, there's no right or wrong way to approach writing, by the way, but this is just a little bit of a plan that could help you. Once again, writing, even formal writing, is still a rather creative pursuit. It's not scientific, which means that what works for me may not work for you. My role here is to share with you certain things that work for me, and maybe you can explore them and see whether they can shorten your the entire effort that you're putting in, the time you're putting in on this. So let's go through each of these one by one. All of writing, whether it's creative writing or whether it's formal writing, business writing, all of it starts with information. So I'm going to talk a little bit as we go along on this thing called the information master. But the information master comes from experiences that you've had. You hear things, you read things, you watch things, you talk to people, you do your own secondary data analysis, whatever sense you make of it. And all of these are experiences which in turn feed into whatever it is you're trying to say. And then you'll go through an entire process of figuring out what parts of this do I want to say, in what order do I want to say it, in what manner do I want to present it. So these three are some of the other things that will help you get there. Alka ji, could you just confirm, is my cursor moving? Can you see the cursor moving as well?
Your cursor is moving.
Okay, yeah. Great, excellent. So I'll get into each of these in a little detail, but let's first think about deliverable. Now I know that the team has laid out a fairly comprehensive set of deliverables for you. Something that I noticed last year with last year's batch, as well as I've done a fair bit of teaching training as well, is a lot of people tend to get they feel very caged by the formats that are given to them. So please understand, and I did have a chat with the team last year saying, what is the reason for giving these formats? Is there a need to say that it has to be presented in this way only? And I think Alka ji, you may remember we had that talk, no? And what I was told was, no, these are not meant to say that you have to give it in this way. These are actually suggestions. They are tools. Formats are actually tools. And that's something I can completely understand. When you think of the format as a certain guidebook to how you can do it, then it becomes a tool rather than a jail saying that you have to write within these parameters only. So think of it that way. It's not meant to cage you in or stifle your creativity or your expression. It's meant to actually make it easier for you. That said, the tool will work based on how you use it. So you need to understand why those formats are the way they are. And of course, we'll talk through a few tools as well. And all of those work backwards from the deliverable. Alka ji also shared with me this entire document, which went into a lot of detail about each deliverable, which I think is fantastic because a lot of those are things that I picked up on the go. So let's take a look at all the deliverables you have. These are all the deliverables, right? So there's a project outline, there's a case study, there's blog posts, photo slides and narratives, infographics, and reports. Now, across 20 years, I've probably worked on hundreds of projects, thousands of blog posts, definitely hundreds of reports for different companies, clients, causes. There is a certain way I have evolved of approaching all of these and doing things. But there are a dozen other ways and possibly more to do all of these. Plus, it took me many years to get to this point where I feel really comfortable doing this. Now, this presentation you're looking at, by the way, I put it together in about half an hour last evening, because I know by now that that's all the time it takes me to put together something for this. But that's come over 20 years. So think about all these formats and these tools as ways for you to leapfrog that. You don't have to spend 20 years learning how to write a report well, for instance. Okay, so let's get started with that structure that I told you. I'm just going to pause again. Alka ji, the volume is fine. The speed I'm going at, is this fine?
I think it's fine. If any fellow has any issues there that she's going fast or whatever, just post it in the comments. But yeah, so far so good. Yeah.
So far so good. Okay, great. Thank you. Right. So let's go back to this. Now you'll notice deliverable is highlighted because you already know where you want to end up. That is your end result. That is your end goal. Let's think about the experiences and the information master. Now your experiences when it comes to your project are uniquely yours. Alka ji is not coming out with you onto the field. Sanjay ji is not on the phone with you while you are talking to all the people that you're talking to. I am not sitting next to you when you're analyzing that data. That's all your own experiences. It's everything that you're receiving on email. It's all the photographs you're taking. It's all the documents, the forms you're filling in. It's the recordings you're taking. It's also all the thoughts you're having along the way. It's even the doodles that you're doing while you're sitting and waiting for someone. All of these are important. So here's a tip for anyone creating content. Never edit while you're in the process of creating the content. Now, editing is proofreading, correcting grammar, making it shorter, ensuring that it fits within 280 characters. But editing is also deciding this information is useful, this is not useful, this is relevant, this is not relevant. Don't do any of that while you're in the process of creating it. Editing is really easy once you have everything down on the table. And that's what the information master is for. So I do this at the start of every one of my projects, whether it is a performance that I have to go in for, or whether it's a webinar like this, or, okay, sorry, I think there was a little lag. I probably got cut out in between. Where did you last hear me, Alka ji? Sorry, you're on mute.
I'm saying give us
Ramya, we are hearing you. Ramya, we are hearing you continuously.
Yeah.
There is no lag.
I got notification saying there's a problem with the connection. That's why.
No. That's fine.
I'm in a very crowded part of Bombay, so the signal sometimes fluctuates a bit on Fridays. Sorry. Okay. So to go back to this, the information master is something that I do at the start of any project. Now, this is whether it's a 6-month project with a client to assess their business processes, or it's a 15-minute performance on a stage. My information master contains all the possible information that I have and want to find out as regards that project. Now, it may not all make it into the final deliverable, but everything that goes into the background gets into the information master. So nothing is cut out of the information master. So remember all the things I mentioned, the notes you've made, the pictures you've taken, the doodles, all of that should go into your information master. What are some things that we can put into an information master? These are some suggestions. I'm coming back to the chat window. I think you can still see my screen. So I'd like to hear from you. What are some things that you think you could put into your information master? Just post it in the comments, because that'll also give me a little better flavor of the kind of projects you're working with. And I've got the screen right here. So these are some of my suggestions. This is not a comprehensive list. All of this will be, of course, unique to your projects and your experiences. Okay. Nobody's posting comments. Okay, people, you you need to participate in this with me. So what if we are not in the same room? I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm not going to move to the next slide until I see a few people participating. लिखना आपको है, मैं नहीं लिखने वाली हूँ. So what are some things? What would you start with putting in your information master? That's okay, Abhishek. So even if you're late, that's fine. I'm talking about the very start of creating content for your project. All your deliverables, they're all content, right? So you start with an information master where you put down all the information that is related to that project. Now, whether it makes it into a deliverable or not doesn't matter. But if it is part of the project, it should start with the names of the people, right? It should start with your name, because someone reading the information master will wonder, ye kiska information master hai, right? Yes, absolutely, Shweta. Thank you. Purpose, background, current situation, future possibilities. That's actually, you've gone a few steps further as well, which is excellent. So don't edit anything. Acknowledgements also excellent, Niharika. That's really good. That's something that often causes a problem, because formal documents like this, you tend to seek a lot of help from a lot of different people, and there are feathers that could get ruffled. There are all kinds of relationships that could completely just get destroyed because the acknowledgements didn't happen in the way they were meant to happen, or the wrong link and things like that. So that's a very good point. Bibliography, yes, absolutely. That's a really important part of what you should put into your information master, because it can be very easy to forget all the articles that you read. You'll remember the essence of it or the books you read, but you may not remember which was the article, all of it. So document everything in your information master. Excellent, guys. Please keep this up. I'm going to keep toggling between my screen and the chat window. Let me just move this to one side so I can keep an eye on the screen as well. Okay, I'm going to move this along. Now, once you have your information, yes, catchy title ideas also. Excellent point. And you may have multiple ideas. Don't be in a hurry to decide one idea. You don't have to pick one. This is the stage where your project is still in gestation. So you don't have to name it. You don't have to put your the final name on it until the final deliverable is due. So put down all those thoughts as well. Plus, if you have multiple people working on it, each person will bring in their set of ideas. List of data sources, collaborating partners, absolutely. Contact details are another thing that are super important. Now, your expected results, you'll see, are coming in a little after experiences. This is because you may start off thinking that every project is a set of tasks and activities with at least one major end goal in mind. And I'm saying at least one because you could have multiple goals, but realistically, only one goal is the main one. But as you get started and you go out and actually work on the field, talk to people, you may realize that there are certain other things that change, certain nuances that get added. So the expected results is something that might get a lot clearer once you get started, somewhere in the middle of the process. So you might have to go back and update the information master or redo it. You might have to go back and rethink the kind of experiences. Maybe we don't go to this particular region, we have to go to another region. All of these get captured in your information master as well. It's an iterative process. Okay. All right. Now, this is a very broad set of skeletons. Now, what do I mean by skeleton? By the way, I forgot to, but I wanted to put a little image of an actual human skeleton. A skeleton is literally that. A skeleton is a core framework that is at the center of it, which you will then populate with you will color it in with a lot of other things. Now, your skeleton doesn't have to be something that you do at the very last minute. It should not be something that you do at the very last minute. Your skeleton is a basic framework that you can plan as you go along. The all the data, all the information that Alka ji and team have shared with you, the formats, those are starting points for your skeletons. Okay, so those are things that you can say, okay, definitely need this, definitely need this. These are some things that I can choose to add in this order. And then it's very easy to juggle it around and say, this section should come later, or this bit should come, maybe the alignment should be this way rather than this way, and so on and so forth. Okay, I just realized you can't see my video while the screen is on, but can you actually see my video while the screen is on?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. I was gesturing with my hands saying, this big and this big, but okay. This is the performer in me. I'm used to body language as well. Okay, so let's come back to skeletons. Now, skeleton is ideally something I would like all of you to think about how you would design it. If you didn't have the formats that the team has sent to you, and you were just told that you have a project outline, you have a case study, or you just have to report on it. I don't know if any of you have gone through college courses where you have things like reports at the end. Now, often you might be left scrambling saying, I don't know what to put in a report. So come up with some ideas and then go back to the formats that the team has shared with you and see whether there's something from there you can pick and choose to make your skeleton better. What are some ways to approach a skeleton? Now, when it comes to project outline, your project outline is basically a very refined version of your master document. It's all the things that the master document looks like once you have edited it down. So please retain the master document as well. I also cannot stress this enough. Take backups, please, and do version control, because from several different experiences, you have 5 people working on one document and mistake, they were really working at night, and that's 4 weeks of work gone. The other thing is, how many of you have studied science in college, science or engineering?
All of them are science students.
Oh, all of you are science students. So you know,
them is not, but yes, all of them. Yeah.
So you know the pain called journals. I was a science student as well, so all of you know the pain called journals. Now, I don't know if things have changed that much from when I was a student, but yes, thank you, Niharika. But I don't know if things have changed much, but when I was a student, we would pretty much, get through the year, and then end of the year when the project submissions were due, lab submissions were due, there would be 2 weeks of frantic writing in the journals. Don't do that. Please don't do that when it comes to this, because you're seriously going to suffer if you have to sit and recap all these weeks of work in the last few days. Unlike lab journals, you can still copy from each other. You can't do that over here. You're going to end up forgetting a bunch of stuff, and you'll just not, it will also not be as much fun. So please don't do that. All of these tools and techniques, the skeleton and the master, are all ways to keep you doing little bits through the entire project, rather than have like one bundle of work that you have to do at the end. Okay, so coming back to the project outline, a very, very simple way of approaching the project outline is answer these 6 questions when it comes to your project. The what of it. Remember, I said every project has one major goal. What is that end goal? What is that end objective? Where is it happening? These are all local. Water is a very tangible, physical issue. So what are the areas you are looking at? What are the areas impacted? The geography of it, all the statistical information that you have available, who is involved, who is impacted, who is helping you, who are the references, who are support groups, whose motives conflict with yours. When is this happening? The timeline is super important in projects like this, especially. Now, we know the world looked very different 6 months ago. We know this same session looked entirely different in 2019 September. Okay, so I'm guessing someone had a question. Upma had a question. Okay, yes, please post it to the comment section. If I don't look at it right now, I'll definitely come back to it. Why? Now, why may add to the what. I sometimes find myself getting a little confused between does this come under the what or the why? And if you hit that point, then you know what, it doesn't actually matter. Don't stress and think about should this come under the answer to what or why. As long as you're addressing them both, as long as both the questions are there and you're thinking about it, that's all that matters. And finally, the how. How are you doing it? Who are the people doing this? What are the technology you're using? What are the tools in place? And what is your entire timeline in handling this entire project? Your case study is literally a live example of the idea that you're putting forth in your project, that you're working on in the project. It's an actual live depiction, or it may be a demonstration, or it is a live running through of, it could be a demonstration of the project, the need for the project itself, the problem itself. It could be a demonstration of some proposed solutions, and we've tried this, and so on and so forth. It could be a particular person or group that has shown a lot of impact of this particular issue or of a particular solution. Each of these becomes a different case study. So case studies are there to illustrate what the project is. It's a verbal illustration of what the project is. And case studies follow a very, very simple format. What is the background, which is what is the problem, what is the issue, and who are you addressing? Why did you choose to pick them? What is the problem itself? So there's a problem of not enough potable water, for instance, or there's just there is an entire local mafia in place that prevents people from accessing water as they need. Or it may be a timeliness issue. There could be a contamination issue. Any of those. There could be a chemical plant nearby which is contaminating it. I don't know. I'm sorry if some of these sound like very superficial reads of the water problem, but these are the kind of things that you should be thinking about. And finally, what is the result of that particular case study? Okay. Okay, I'm coming back to the comment section. Did you have a comment in place? Oh, I just see. I noticed how Alka ji noticed that Upma had a question. Okay, so that's the hand raised. Are we all okay so far? Any thoughts, any questions so far? Okay, thank you, Niharika. I like when people are like Niharika and participating a lot. So be like Niharika. All right, now let's get back to this. So we understand what a skeleton is. And I've only given you a skeleton for project outline and case study because the others are actually much more specific aspects of writing, much more specific formats of writing. I'll give you a few tools and techniques and a few things to think about when you go through those, but I don't think those typically need a skeleton. Plus, if you have a skeleton in place for the project outline, everything else becomes just a cut and paste from that and modify it slightly for the rest of the deliverables. Let's explore a few tools and formats. Now let's come to blog posts. How many of you blog or have ever blogged? Just say yes in the comments if you have. Any kind of blogging, a fashion blog, a cookery blog, a travel blog, anything at all. Come on, I don't believe that. Nobody here is on Instagram.
Ma'am, I have. I don't know if you can see my comment.
Sorry, only Niharika said thank you. That's the last that I can see.
They're saying, Ananya is saying she wrote about organic farming. Niharika is talking about tweeting will go, Insta post. Shweta is talking about, you can't see that post? All the posts that
I'm not able to see those comments at all. Okay, that's odd. Sorry about that, guys. I thought you were not responding.
Okay, it's done on, yeah, so what they have done is all the 13 fellows, they had submitted their blog post because we are creating a blog for the fellowship.
Right.
And so they have done that. 500 word up to that deliverable was part of it. So they have done on 28th, and now we are looking at it, editing it. And I think in a 2 weeks time, it will be up as a blog for everybody with their profiles and all that.
That's excellent. So what I really wanted to know is if any of them, what kind of experience they had with blogging before this project or outside this project. And people, in case you're doubting it, your Twitter profile counts, your Instagram profile counts, your YouTube channel counts. All of these are forms of blogging. They're blogging or they're micro blogging. That's what it used to be called. They're picture blogging. All of these count. Because all of these are ways to reach social media audiences using various different platforms. I find it very hard to believe that none of you have touched Instagram or Twitter. So I'm just going to assume that you don't want to bring it up. So that's fine. I respect your privacy there. I won't ask you to share your handles, but I want you to tap into that experience that you have. Okay, Shweta is saying you write down random situations when I have the urge to have my opinion shared with others. That is literally how I got started, Shweta. I had a full-time job in the corporate world, and I liked writing, so I used to write diaries, and I just took my diaries online, which is how I became a blogger. And I had no idea at that point of time that 10 years later this would become a career for me. But that's really what all writing and all content creation, that's where it starts from. So the skills you have, and you are developing skills each time you're doing that, will serve you well even in this. Now, a few things when it comes to a blog for a formal blog or a professional organization or something like this, where your audiences are not necessarily your classmates or your family, so they may read it as well. Just a few guidelines to keep in place. Now, I've been part of a lot of groups where we talk about blogging is more casual. Okay, Niharika is saying I created my Insta page, but it soon went out of fashion to me. Okay, Instagram is also very, very old now. I know that. Snapchat, maybe. But each of these are ways to tell stories. Now, when it comes to a formal or a professional blog, you still want to retain that very conversational element, but you want it to seem a little more respectable. Which is not to say that your unvarnished self is not respectable, but there is a certain etiquette. And of course, a lot of these are blurring in the pandemic because, as you can see, I'm sitting inside my room right now and talking to all of you, and all of you are doing that as well. So some of these are still in evolution. What I'm going to say today may not be applicable 6 months from now, even. And you guys are the ones who are actually taking this media forward because you're the newest generation of adults to come out and make use of these. But some broad guidelines to keep in mind is always be polite. But polite does not mean you are inaccessible. You have to seem conversational, which means that someone who's reading the blog has to feel like they can talk to you. And why is this important? Because the big thing about all social media content is the comment section or the likes or faves, the stars, whatever it is. And you want people to respond to you. Now, how will they respond to you unless they feel that you're inviting their response? So that's where you need to be conversational. So Abhishek, that is the subject of an entire course, possibly, how to tap into the maximum audience. And people have written books and books for decades and done webinars on the same. But some things to keep in mind is be authentic to what you're saying. Keep your writing or your content very clear and easy to navigate. Be polite but conversational. So I'll come back and address these more personal questions once I run through this. Personal but appropriate is again another very tricky line to tread. Now, blogs are much more personal than, say, a white paper or a report. With a white paper, it doesn't really matter who has written it. The names come only at the end or right at the top as a byline. But with a blog, it has to matter who has written it. So let's say Alka ji writes a blog about this particular event, and I write a blog. When you read it, even without reading the name, you should be able to tell that this was written by Ramya, this was written by Alka ji. That personal touch has to come in. And that personal touch has a lot to do with how you think and how you express yourself. At the same time, personal does not mean that you can afford to be inappropriate. So you still have to keep in mind that the context for this is still a very, very serious one, one that impacts a lot of people. That's a very big project that you've taken on, and you're part of a very important cause. So keep that in mind and be very mindful of that. I won't say you don't have to be scared of it, but it's possible to be appropriate while still being very approachable and very personal. I actually think something like this makes for very good blog posts because you only come into doing work of this sort if you care passionately about this, which means you care passionately about human beings living better lives. Human beings are all kinds of living creatures living better lives. And that's a very personal sentiment. That is not impersonal at all. That's a very, very emotional thing. It's not completely objective or unemotional. And that's a chance for you to tap into that and bring that in and make your writing more personal. Personal writing hooks in readers very quickly. That is the one shortcut that I can offer you, Abhishek. Uh, my entire 20-year journey of writing, all my audiences, they come in because I write in a personal manner. And it's how I teach and how I perform as well. If it's personal, then people who are reading or listening to you are able to relate to you rather than it's just some writing on a screen somewhere. It should sound like an actual human being put thought into it. So that's something that you should keep in mind. It's what I'd like to call experiential with facts. Always keep in mind that this has to be fact based. And I think all of you would know better than me what happens when people don't rely on facts when it comes to social media. It can result in a lot of very embarrassing situations. So please, facts first, but also your experiences. Your experiences are your own. There is nothing that anyone can doubt about it. So your blog can be made more personal when you talk about the experience that you have had with whatever the topic is and back it up with the facts or use that experience to illustrate the facts. Like, let's say your blog post is about the need for more accessible water in, let's say, in a particular area. Now, if you share an actual story which talks about what happens when water is not easily accessible and how it has impacted you personally, or what you have seen with people that you have actually spoken to and met, then that makes the problem a lot more real. It makes me want to think about it, worry about it, and do something about it, rather than it's just something is written somewhere. Keep in mind anything that is confidential. I don't know whether any of you are coming across any information that could be sensitive or confidential, but be mindful of this. All formal work requires you to be mindful of this. There could be legal reasons, there could be political reasons, economic reasons, whatever it is. If it's confidential, then be very careful about how you express it. So you want to tell the whole story, but not at the cost of breaking somebody's confidentiality. And finally, this is something that's just true of all writing. Assertive writing makes for more powerful writing. Some simple ways to do this: be factual, don't lie. Secondly, use active voice, not passive voice. I think we're all familiar with what active and passive voice is. Active voice just makes you sound a lot more take charge. Okay. These are some other suggestions for things that you can use in blogs. Embed links liberally in your blog posts because links give your reader a wider range of information that they can choose from. So how many of you are readers? How many of you like reading books, ebooks? They're all counted. Just say yes or raise your hands if you do. Okay. Akansha, did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, I read it as Ekansha.
Ekansha. Okay, sorry about that, Ekansha.
No, that's totally cool.
Sayami and Niharika also like reading. Now, I come from the generation that had to go through libraries and, books were only made of paper. But when ebooks came out, I was resistant to it first, but now I'm a huge fan of ebooks for a number of reasons. But the primary reason is when I'm reading an ebook, I get the book plus everything that's on Wikipedia about different things, plus the dictionary definitions of words, plus what other people have chosen to highlight. Now, this is what a Kindle, these are the features that a Kindle gives you. When I'm reading an article online, I also get to see what are some other related anecdotes to the same thing. So my entire reading experience is a lot more than just that one paperback and what's between the pages. So keep that in mind. All content is about delivering good value to your reader, whether it's in terms of correct information or entertainment. All of this is better value for your reader. So links are excellent to have in a blog post. Part of a book club. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Any kind of anecdotes typically make blog posts, case studies really, really personal and relatable. Now, quotable content, I want to talk about this for a few seconds. Your writing, especially something, any kind of social media content or even anything that involves presenting, it's always good to have a few lines that people will remember that are like zingers. So in my case, one of the lines that I've already used so far is, when you're in the process of writing, don't edit. You can edit later. So I know that that's something that will stick in people's minds. And if it is on a screen, then that's the kind of thing that you can put in a highlight. You can also turn it into the caption under an image. Now, what will happen is those pictures will then get pinned on Pinterest. Those are things you can share to Instagram, just that image with the little caption or that quotable quote under it. You know, quotable quotes also, there are entire Instagram accounts that use just those quotable quotes as well. So think about your quotable content as well, because this will help you take your content much further. Images and illustrations are always good to have. If you're doing this online, then any kind of image just makes just adds a lot of visual interest to your writing. How are we on pacing? Am I going too fast, too slow? Should I pick it up a bit? I don't know if any of you. Okay, all right. That's great. Thank you, Shweta. Okay, now let's look at a few tools when it comes to this entire process. Okay, let's come back. Before I get to tools, how many of you write outside this, just maybe for fun or for other things? Your diary writing counts, your blog posts count, your tweets count. If you think it counts, then it counts. I'll say it counts. Okay. Upma, Amrita, Niharika. Well, a lot of people do more writing than they realize and they don't think they're writers, Niharika. So you own your writing. Notes on the phone, Shweta. Yes, that's writing. Amrita, yes, absolutely, Abhishek. So remember when I said I'm a performer, what I do is spoken word poetry. So poetry is absolutely writing. Okay, journaling. Journaling is where it started for a lot of us. All of these are writing. And there are dozens of tools online for writers. I did a search recently and I discovered there were so many more tools. Every day there are new tools coming out, and many of them are free tools. So let me give you just a few tools that I use for my business work. And all of these are tools, by the way. Yes, I'm going to do exactly that. So let's look at a very popular tool that a lot of you may know. I'm going to come out of this and I'm just going to share my screen in a minute. Okay. Yeah, so I can't see your comment section, but I'm guessing most of you have seen this tool called Grammarly. Now, Grammarly, I'll have to log into Grammarly right now. But what Grammarly does is it lets you proofread your work. It actually looks at highlights it highlights grammatical mistakes and spelling mistakes. So you can see there's a little demonstration going on over here. The correct one is, there should be a comma after that, it should be students, and then it also gives you these other little synonyms, antonyms, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to demonstrate Grammarly for you because it's fairly self-explanatory. I'd rather go on and talk through a bunch of other tools. Another tool that is a little lesser known, but this is one of my favorite tools. This is a tool called Hemingway app. Once this is done, I'll share the links with you in the comment section as well. Okay, let me actually do that right now. So I've just shared the Hemingway app. Now let me demonstrate how this particular tool works. You can see there's a piece of writing on the page already, and you can see there's a lot of colors. Now this is the demo. This is the sample document that's been put up there, and right now it says it's grade 6. There's a little analysis of how many words it is, how many characters, how much time it takes to read, and there is the legend on what these colors mean. So let's look at the first one. It says there are 2 adverbs meeting the goal of 2 or fewer. So let's go and look at what the blue says. And when I hover over the blue, over the word helpfully, it says omit and use a forceful verb. So the sentence is adverbs and weakening phrases are helpfully shown in blue. So Hemingway says that you don't really need the word helpfully. So let me edit that. So now it's come down to 1 adverb. The other one is perhaps. So the sentence is get rid of them and pick up words with force, perhaps. So let's omit this. The sentence still makes sense, but there's a hanging comma. So I'm going to delete that. And now 0 adverbs, well done. Similarly, green is for uses of passive voice. So adverbs and weakening phrases are shown in blue. And it says use active voice. So what would I do? If I need to change this to active voice, I'd say, and you can see I can go in and edit it right there. Adverbs and weakening phrases are shown in blue. So let's change this to blue highlights show adverbs and weakening phrases. And there, that's the green gone. Phrases in green have been marked to show passive voice. How can I make this active voice? Phrases in green show passive voice. Okay, so the green has also come down to 0. Pink says this phrase has a simpler alternative. So the word utilize, it says replace or omit it, replace it with the word use. And now this has come to 0. Yellow says sentence is hard to read. The sentence is the app highlights lengthy complex sentences and common errors. If you see a yellow sentence, shorten or split it. So let me try and make this yellow disappear. Let me do that first by splitting the sentence, and there it's gone. Red says that the sentence is very hard to read. If you see a red highlight, your sentence is so dense and complicated that your readers will get lost trying to follow its meandering, splitting logic. Try editing the sentence to remove the red. So let me first do the same thing I did for the yellow sentence. I'll break it up. Now this part of it has gone out of the red, but the original sentence is still in red. So if you see a red highlight, your sentence is so dense and complicated that your readers will get lost trying to follow. Let me try and split it again. Let me make it is too dense and complicated. And your readers, so does it make sense? If you see a red highlight, your sentence is too dense and complicated. Your readers will get lost trying to follow its meandering, splitting logic. Try editing the sentence to remove the red and go back, and all the highlights are gone. Now you see the grade has changed from grade 6 to grade 5, which means it's improved. So Hemingway is a tool that helps you write better because it makes your writing more concise. It makes it easier to read. Remember what I said, simplicity of communication, ease of navigation. Hemingway is an excellent tool to guide you through how to do that. You can also do this. You can select the entire thing, delete it, and start typing right over here. You can also copy paste from a document. Let's say I remove this, and this is my original document. I'm going to copy it from here, paste it here. It'll get pasted here. Okay, so this tool is really, really easy to use. It doesn't even need a login like Grammarly does. Okay, so let's come back. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slide. So we've looked at Hemingway editor, we've looked at Grammarly. How many of you here know what a thesaurus is? I know everybody knows what a dictionary is, but do any of you know what a thesaurus is?
Yes, ma'am, it's used to improve our vocabulary. I mean, synonyms, antonyms for words to make it more effective, to make communication more effective.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. So a thesaurus in some ways is the opposite of a dictionary. When you want to know what a word means, you go to the dictionary. But when you have something in mind and you want to know what the word for it is, then you go to a thesaurus. And there is a site that does both of these things, and it's quite simply dictionary.com. Dictionary.com also has thesaurus.com. So I'm just going to share the link to the same. Let me open it up on my screen itself so you can see it. Oh, sorry, I forgot to share my screen. My share screen option seems to have vanished. Okay, there it is. So this is dictionary.com, and dictionary.com, you'll notice, also has thesaurus.com right here. So you can put in an idea and let's see what it throws up. What are some other things that show up? Related words. Did you mean made reservation? No, that's not what I meant. With reservation, preservation, without reservation, water. So let's see preservation. These are a bunch of different words that come in related to preservation. So thesaurus.com is a great way to start building on the ideas you already have. I'm going to share a link to this. This is thesaurus.com. Let's come back to my slides. Alka ji, we are okay on time?
The fellows has to tell us because it's 5 already. So they have to tell us how long they can be here.
Yeah.
Time was 4 to 5. They're fine. They can just put in chat box if you want to continue for 15 more minutes. Is that okay? 15, 20 minutes? Yeah. I think, yes, we can continue. Yeah.
Okay. Ananya says she has a class scheduled. Okay. So maybe Ananya can leave as she needs to, and I guess you could share with her afterwards, right? So. Should I continue with the presentation?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to get through the rest now pretty quickly. This is something I wanted to show all of you. Now, this is a very small, often neglected part of content. Do any of you get this reference? If you do, just post it to the comment section. And in the meantime, I'm going to demonstrate something. Does anybody know what this sentence means that I'm typing out? The relevance of this sentence is that it contains every single letter in the English alphabet. Okay? Now, I want to show you something. And I've got this in regular letters. Okay? Now, the first line is in Times New Roman, and the second one is in Arial. Okay? And let's make this Arial as well. Okay? Now, all of these are the same size, but you'll notice that the sentences in Arial are longer than the sentences in Times New Roman. Now, this is because of the two fonts, Arial is a little more stretched out than Times New Roman is. That is the kind of difference that a font can make. A font can also make a massive difference in how readable your content is, especially when it comes to you're using content that's multi-format. So there'll be captions, there'll be headlines, images, titles, all of these. So it's a good idea to think about what fonts you're using. A thumb rule is not more than 2 or at the most 3 fonts in one piece of content. And if you have to use some 3 different fonts, I would say the title and headlines can be in one font, the entire body of the text in another font, and the captions are allowed to be in a third font. But no more than that. Don't change fonts. Don't have multiple fonts in the same piece of writing or the same piece of content, because it looks very, very unprofessional. It also makes it very hard to read. Make your decisions on the font based on a number of things, not just how it looks, but how readable it is. Personally, I prefer Arial to Times New Roman. This is because Times New Roman is what is called a sans, is called a serif font. A serif is this little, let me make this a little bigger. You'll, sorry. Now you see that T has these little notches at the end, and at the base also there are these little notches on either side. Every letter in the Times New Roman alphabet has these notches. It's not just the T. Let's take the J or the F or the X as well. You'll notice those notches. Okay, these notches are called serifs. Arial is an example of a font that does not have notches, so it's called sans serif. Sans is French for without, so without serifs. Now, fonts without serifs tend to be easier for me to read. I tend to think they look a lot easier, just more easy to read when there's a lot of text on the page. So I tend to prefer sans serif fonts. You may have heard of a font called Comic Sans, the quick brown fox. Comic Sans is a very popular font for a lot of people who are just starting to use digital tools. Now, Comic Sans is typically not considered a very appropriate font for formal communication. It's not a very clean font. You can see the Q is not completely straight down. It's going at a slight angle, and that's just an example. The F also is going at a slight angle. The M is not uniform. So Comic Sans is typically not considered very appropriate for formal communication. These are just some tips and some guidelines to keep in mind. Don't worry too much. You don't have to be a typographer. You don't have to be a professional expert at this. Some very simple guidelines like keep it minimal. Don't use a lot of very obscure fonts. The other thing is you're using digital tools. You can always go and download some very unknown font somewhere. But if the person who's reading it doesn't happen to have that font installed on their device, your entire report will come as garbage characters. So it's just a good idea to use very standard fonts, and there's a wide variety of them on both Microsoft tools as well as Google and all the online platforms. Now, photo slides and narratives, some things to keep in mind. If you're not any kind of designer, you don't feel like you have a lot of artistic talent, not to worry. Some thumb rules is think about color. Don't have lots of different clashing colors. A few, 2 or 3 main colors, maybe 1 or 2 main colors in the entire slide or the entire page are enough. Dark backgrounds are not great to have. They make it harder to read, which is why the thumb rule is always light backgrounds with dark letters on it. Think about the layout, which is the arrangement of how the different elements look on a page, which goes into the next level if you're using images as well. If you have one very simple way is to have all the images be the same size. Hi, I think I've got disconnected. Sorry, hi. Did I get disconnected?
No, just was a slight pause for a couple of seconds.
Okay, I paused anyway myself. So, okay. So to come back, Now layout, one of the simplest ways to go about layout is just have one image below the other with text in between. Do things like left alignment, don't do center alignment for text. That makes it very difficult to read. Now you'll see I've center aligned this, but that's because I'm presenting it like an image. This is supposed to be a box, the box called the photo slide, and what are the things you can put into it. But all my bullet points are left aligned. Center alignment is not okay if you've got bullet points. It's only when you want to make it look visually nice. I wanted it to look like a little stack inside the box. That's why. Think about the resolution of the images that you're using. This is a very simple thing. If you've done even one such session, if you've done even one PowerPoint presentation, you know that using a thumbnail and then expanding it to the size of the screen will make it look really bad. So be mindful of the resolution of the images that you capture or source. And while on this, be very careful when it comes to copyright. This is something a lot of people get wrong. Now, all the images that I've used over here, and I've not used too many, I only use these two. These come from a copyright-free site whose link I'll share shortly. You can't just do a Google search and any image that you like, pick it up and share it. Because that's like, I like to say, that's like you find somebody's door open and you just walk into their house and whatever you like, you just pick it up and walk away with it. Now, you won't do that in real life. So why would you do that with content? You could also get into serious legal issues if you do something like that. So please don't do anything like that. There are lots of copyright-free sites where you can get excellent high-resolution images. Do that, or if it's possible for you, then capture photographs on your own, because then the copyright will be yours. You don't need to register for it. Another thumb rule, just like with writing, the simpler the better. So when it comes to using images, have few elements in the images, and let me demonstrate what I mean by that. Look at these two pictures. Which one do you think is a better picture to use in a blog post for your project? Don't just look at, it doesn't have to be about your project, but if you had to write a blog post and use one of these two pictures as an image, which one do you think would be better? I'm going to show you what a slide looks like with each of these pictures. So this is the first picture. You can see there's a lot of different elements on this table. It's a photograph of a table with what looks like a frying pan and some plates and wires and paper and a bunch of stuff. On the other hand, this has just one major element to it. Oh, okay. Okay, that's too bad. The pictures can't be seen. Okay, that's that's really bad. All right, you're just gonna have to imagine that I showed you a picture with okay, how do we do this?
Yeah, because your this presentation slide is on the quick brown fox only. That's the reason.
Oh, that's really odd. I've moved 3 slides forward. Okay. Can you see it now? I'm going to unshare and share again. Let's see if that works. How about now? What do you see now?
Yeah, we are at the photo slides and narrative.
Okay. Now, just confirm. Can you see 2 pictures now?
Yeah, we can see 2 pictures now.
Okay. So my question was, if you had to choose one of these 2 pictures to use, which one do you think would be better? And this is what it looks like when the first picture is used in a larger slide, and the same slide but with the second picture. So you can see the eye is drawn to the first picture because it is in the center, but also you can get very tired and you lose out on a bunch of things. You probably didn't read all this when you looked at this picture. Whereas with this, your eye travels here and then it goes here and here. So this is an example of how to use layout. You want people to look at everything that you put on a page, whether it's in your report or your blog post, all of these. You want your reader to look at every single thing. So everything has to be chosen with care and arranged in a manner that the eye will travel in a certain trajectory. So I want you to look at this and then immediately your eye to go here and then you're going to think, what does this mean? Boxes, captions, headlines, and then you're going to go there and oh, photo slides and narratives. So she's talking about the use of color, layout, resolution, and so on and so forth. So you see what I've done? I've planned the journey of your eye through the entire slide. So keep this in mind when you're using images. I'm down to my last but one slide now. These are some tools that you can use for image management. I'm not going to demonstrate any of them, but I will write down, I'll post it in the comment section. So Pixlr, Snapseed are apps, mobile apps. All of these are free apps. Pixlr lets you create collages and add some minor elements to the image itself. Snapseed lets you do massive editing on the picture itself, including turning it slightly from left to right and up and down. It lets you do the basic things like cropping. It can let you turn a black and white, a color picture into black and white, or if you want to highlight just one bit of it, like maybe the photo of me, and you want to highlight only my hair and everything else is in black and white. Snapseed will allow you to do that. Canva is a fantastic app and site. It's a fantastic service and for free to design layouts. You can design newsletters, mailers, a bunch of things on this. Because Canva lets you add images, it lets you move around with them. It lets you add text and change the color, font, size, all of it. So all my posters and recent event announcements, creators, Facebook, header images, all of those I design on Canva. Pixabay and free digital images, free digital photos are both copyright-free libraries that you can access. Please make sure to read the terms and conditions before you actually use them. And finally, I wanted to touch a little bit on data management as well. I know a lot of people do this when they first start report writing or formal presentation making. And I've gone through this journey as well. We end up spending a lot of time, wasting a lot of time on tools that make the report look pretty and not enough time thinking about how to process the information we have and present it in a good manner, in a logical manner, rather than just a pretty manner. So here are some very simple tools that you can use for data management, which is the capture of data and also processing it. Evernote, I think a lot of you know, because Evernote kind of goes across mobile phone, mobile platforms as well as online. They have a desktop app as well, and you can also access it online. Evernote is where I make most of my, including my masters. A lot of them happen on Evernote because I can just type in something onto my phone, and when I get home and access it on my computer, it backs it up to the cloud. Pocket app is, okay, I'm also going to share this in the comment section. Evernote for documentation, note-taking, rather than documentation, note-taking. Pocket app lets you save links that you see online. It also downloads it, so you can read it even when you don't have internet connectivity. So Pocket app is a great way, especially if you're reading a lot of articles and doing a lot of secondary research for a project. When you see something, it's not enough to just read it. And if you just keep posting it to your WhatsApp groups, it's going to be a pain when you keep scrolling back to see what links. Pocket app is a great way to it's like a repository of all the links that would be of use to you. Google Docs are an excellent way to manage all the information and workings within a project, within a team. I'm assuming that most of you already use Google Docs. This presentation I'm making also, you'll notice, is on Google Slides, which is a Google Doc, Google product again. Yeah. I cannot stress this enough. Excel and PowerPoint, I know, are not as much in favor now because a lot of people prefer the more jazzy other services. But Excel is used for more than just tables. Excel is fantastic when it comes to creating charts and analyzing. If you have a lot of tables of data, especially things like a lot of numbers, Excel is a great way to keep track of all of it, do all the calculations you need, and then turn it into charts. And my last slide, I just want to touch on how to think about charts, because that's going to be relevant for you when you look at infographics. Now, one of the major problems I find with infographics is that people don't depict data correctly. All of these are forms of data presentation that we've all learned in 7th, 8th standard. I don't think you see anything here that's new to you. These are bar charts, line charts, pie charts, and Venn diagrams. These are pretty much the big four of data representation. They are used for different things. So bars are used for comparison, like for instance, the marks of every student in the class. So each student would get a bar for themselves. This is how you measure who has the most. That's what a bar is used for. Whereas if you're trying to predict a trend, like a timeline, like number of corona cases testing positive month on month or week on week, you'd use a line graph for that, not a bar graph. Okay, because a line shows you the direction in which it is going. You're looking at a trend over there rather than comparing two entities. A pie chart is used when you're trying to show share of a whole. So since COVID is the big news for all of us, you're trying to show this many cases in India, of which the breakdown is these states. Now, how do we know when people are saying that Maharashtra has one of the highest incidences of COVID cases? A pie chart is a way to show that, not a bar graph, because a bar graph means you're going to have so many states and you'll have to visually look through all those bars, and then some of those bars may look very close to each other. But a pie chart immediately lets your eye focus on which are the largest slices of the pie and which is the small ones which are not even really visible. So all of these techniques are there because it depends on what it is you're trying to do with that information. So if you're trying to predict a trend, that's why you'll see a lot of line charts when it comes to financial forecasting. You'll see a lot of bar graphs when it comes to things like tracking, comparing all the students in a particular class, the average height of all the men in this particular age bracket, things like that. Whereas a pie chart is when you're trying to show the share of a whole. And finally, a Venn diagram is really more for conceptual purposes rather than depicting actual data. So Venn diagram could be used if you're trying to show different social issues and there's an overlap, different social issues in this entire region. And some region number 1 has issues 1, 2, and 3. Region number 2 has issues 2, 3, and 4. So they have an overlap of 2 and 3. That's one way of showing. Venn diagrams is a good way of showing it that way. That's pretty much all the slides I have. I want to rush back and I would like to see if there's any questions I can answer right here. I'm going to stop sharing here as well. I know we are way beyond time. I'm just scrolling back to see the comments that I missed. In the meantime, if you have any specific questions or if you'd like me to open one of the slides again, I can do that as well. Just post it to the comments.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
This is Abhishek.
Yeah.
Should I ask?
Yeah, please. I think I'm just looking. Yeah, go ahead. Ask.
Ma'am, actually, what is the ratio of fact and the content if I'm writing some kind of report or something?
So fact, what is the ratio of fact to what?
Content.
Content is fact. These two are not
story and fact. If I'll say story and fact.
So
Basically,
story
data
when it
and
comes to
fact.
formal writing is not unfactual. It depends on what you call a fact as well, right?
Okay. And my another question is how to authenticate data. If I'm like I posted a blog in my LinkedIn profile, so how to authenticate that data?
What do you mean by how to authenticate that data? How to back it up, do you mean?
How to back it up?
So you have hopefully done the adequate research on that subject before writing that blog post, right?
Okay.
Embed links wherever possible, ideally links within the blog post itself. So if you have a sentence, then you can just hyperlink it. You know that LinkedIn will also, and LinkedIn and all of the internet will highlight it and make it look different. You can also add sorry.
Hello.
Yeah.
Nothing.
You can also add a little references, citations bit at the end of the article. On LinkedIn, that's perfectly permissible because that's people are expecting to see something like that.
Okay. And my last question is.
Sorry, Abhishek, one more thing. You can also add, if you have any charts, relevant charts or things like maps, you could include them along with the blog post as well or the LinkedIn post. I think
Okay.
LinkedIn allows you to add images as well.
Okay, ma'am, how to just my last question is this: like how to connect two paras with depicting different stories. If I want to like join them, like how to connect them.
So if there is a logical connection, you'll have to build that connection with your words, right?
Okay.
There's no simple answer to something like that. If they're connected, that's why. Otherwise, they should not be in the same blog post. They deserve posts of their own each one.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Alka ji, I think you're on mute.
I'm saying Shweta has a question. She actually posted it twice. She's
Okay.
talking about Shweta. You can ask your question. Yeah.
While writing blogs, what is the preferred number of words in a line? So Shweta, firstly, it's not a line. I think you're thinking of sentence, right? There's no hard and fast rule on how many words a sentence should have. If you were thinking about line, which is where the screen ends, that completely depends on the device that the person is reading it on. If they're reading it on their phone, then you know that the line will cut off much earlier. If they're reading it on their computer, again, it depends on their screen, the browser they're using, all of those. So there is no hard and fast rule, and there's no way you can you don't have any control over how people look at it as well. So the only thumb rule you can follow is the thumb rule for all good writing: keep your sentence as short and concise as possible. If you're talking about length of a blog post, again, there's no hard and fast rule, but I personally like to go with 1.5 screens, which is basically means that a person will have to scroll only once on their computer to get to the end of the post. It's typically long form. Most people tend to go to the end first to see how long it is before they decide whether they want to read it or not. We do this with the emails as well. We do this in our own way with books as well, seeing how thick the book is. So if you're making them keep scrolling, a lot of people will lose interest. So 1.5 screens or even 2 screens is fine, but that's generally my thumb rule. I try and keep it within 1.5 screens.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, while writing blog for the deliverable, I read it somewhere that you should follow at least 80 characters in a line while writing blog. Matlab, there should be a restriction over word which you are consisting in a line.
Sorry, Shweta, I couldn't hear that very well. 80 characters, did you say? Sorry,
Yeah.
what?
In a line.
80, 80.
80 characters, including
Oh,
your.
characters. Sorry, I didn't hear that. Okay, so characters in a line. Um, so I don't know. I mean, different people have different mindsets to that. I don't go by character or word count. The word count, character count thing is relevant in the print medium, but literally, if it's on digital, I could write something that's being read on a screen this small. So how are you going to then say that there should be this much per line? Plus, there might be an ad banner over here, which means that there'll be only half the number of characters that will appear here before it spills to the next one. You have no control over that. Also, the website that you're posting it to will have their own mobile optimization, their own various ways of the web version also. No, Dr. Veena, again, the web version, you don't know whether there'll be a pop-up appearing or an image might appear in a different way. So the character limit only counts when it is a limit. So something like Twitter has a 280 character limit. Any more than that, and it'll just not show over there. But that's not true of a blog. So a regular blog like say Medium or Blogger or something like that. So pop-up for phone is an option, yes, but it's not an option. That control is not necessarily in your hands. If you're posting it to LinkedIn, you don't have that control. Plus, for instance, I have pop-up blockers on all my devices. So if the pop-up is not allowed to appear, then you don't know exactly how it is going to appear with that thing missing. So there's just too many variables when it comes to that level of digital content. So did that address your answer, your question, Shweta? Okay. So I'm just looking back to see if there are any other questions. Alkaji, I think you're on mute. I think you're saying something, but you're on mute.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just trying to type a question for my colleague Sudha. So that's
Okay.
what I'm just doing.
So I've gone back to where I was looking at the comments last. I think that's addressed all the questions.
So basically, he's asking, yeah, ideally a blog should be of how many words? Ideally, whenever you do a blog post, yeah, on social issues, particularly.
So I would say that under 1,000 words is generally a good reference, 700 to 1,000 words. But the reasons for this is, and again, don't treat it as a hard and fast rule. The reason for this is under 700 words, different platforms have different limitations. So if you're posting it to LinkedIn, for example, and LinkedIn, again, it depends on which feature, whether you're posting it to a group or a page or your personal profile, all of those. Plus, at what point does it get cut off and become read more? Which means you're relying on your reader to then click on that read more. A lot of people, I'd like to say maybe 90% of people will not go beyond that read more because there's just too much information. And then there is a limit beyond which LinkedIn will not let you post either. So the thing to keep in mind is not how much how much the platform lets you post. That is one thing to keep in mind. And within that, how much is your audience likely to be willing to read? Because it's a lot of effort you're putting in to create that content. So try and think about how to keep it as compact as possible without losing anything. 500 words also could be a blog post. So Instagram captions, for instance, are much less than 700 words. I think they're probably like some, they seem to be about 500 characters, roughly estimating. And you should be able to tell a story in that as well if you can. So when it comes to ideal, there's no hard and fast rule, but try and train yourself to write to at least 1,500 words if you need to, but be able to shrink that down to about 500 words if need to. So one exercise you can do is each time you write something, write it as a 2,000 word article, then bring it down to a 1,000 word blog post, then bring it down to a 500 word social media caption. It's an excellent exercise in refining exactly what needs to be said and how to say it.
And I think there's another thing in this, and when you write it out and then you leave it for some days and then you come back, then you'll see, oh my God, this is extra, this is not required. So don't have to do that editing at that time itself. You can do it in phase manner, and it really helps to go back and see what you're writing is making sense or not.
Yep. So personally, I find I do a lot of my writing is also personal these days. But instead of writing to my blog first and then taking it to Instagram and Twitter, these days I'm doing a lot of my writing on the Instagram screen itself because that has a character limit. And I know I can expand it easily if I need to, but the harder thing is to make it shorter. That's actually a lot harder than to make something longer. So if I can say it in Instagram, in an Instagram caption, then it's going to be very easy to develop those ideas further in a blog post or even something bigger than that.
Yeah. Veena ji has a question, then I have one observation to share.
No, actually, it is not a question, but Alka, what you were reinforcing and what she has just reinforced that we have to have an information master. And that information master is for that purpose only, because we have to go back again and again to see that we have all the information, but what we have to give the information in that particular way that it is very very readable and catchy for the readers. So I think what she has mentioned is very very correct, that information master has to be created, and from that we can extract the right type of information.
Thank you, Veena ji. Actually, you're right. I just remembered to bring that slide back, but hopefully this makes more sense to everyone now. That information master is literally the starting of all things, and that's where you keep going back to then keep pulling out from that what is needed for each of the deliverables.
Hello, Alka.
Yeah, Veena.
I just want to share because most of the fellows are here, and I was going through the project outlines and the blogs. Really, they have done very, very hard work. And I think after this today's presentation, if they go back and again work on the blog writing and project outline, definitely the outcome will be far better than the kind of responses they have submitted. Because today's presentation have highlighted all those points which we have seen and which we have noticed and which we have just sent to you. Because one or two students have done on simultaneously on 2-3 projects, but while writing on the project outline, they have mentioned all the project outline and the work in the same format. So I think after this today's this writing skill workshop, the fellows will take the benefit, and that's very wonderful experience.
They can in fact go back and in fact they can, in the further deliverables they can focus on it. Yes, I actually have 2-3 points that I wanted to make, and you can add on there. One is when you save a file. So what generally happen is most of the time I've seen when people create a file, they will say doc1, whatever the automatically that come, they will save it on desktop and that's it. And after some time when they'll go back to the file again, they won't know which file they were working on. And sometimes the versions are so many, because at least in our case we share with the client, then comes back and again and back and forth. So what we do nowadays, that the trend that we have been following, every day whenever we are working on a file, we put a date in front of the file. So we add day first, like today it is 11, so 11/09/20. 20
Yes.
is year, month and that. And then we put underscore and name the file. Every time, and it means every time when we are creating a rewriting or saving the file, there'll be if there's another separate date, there'll be a separate file altogether. So I know this is the latest file. That nowadays is really helping us. Another point that I wanted to make is when people send the documents, and especially for the fellows, let's say you're sending us 10-page document when you'll do the report of 20-page, and you will not put page numbers in that. The pagination, I think, is another. If I have to take printouts of all the 20-page report of 13 fellows, and the page numbers are not there, then we all jumbled up printouts, and it will be lot. At least I feel that when the pages are numbers are not mentioned, then I don't think so that layouts and the systematically reports are not done. That's another very important point, at least for me. Then there's an aspect of British English and American English that need to be looked in, that you can't mix it up. You can't write program program and somewhere you're not using Z. So it's a mix up of British and English. I think we follow British English, so we need to follow British English. We also need to look at the grammar part of it, that from number 1 to 9, you always have to put 1 to 9 in words. You can't write that in numbers if you're writing formal writing. In informal, you can write the way you want, but formal writing, those are another very important point. And in documents like yours, fellows, then referencing and endnotes are very important to create that authenticity and validation of your documents. If it's not social media and you can't put a link to it, but then you have to add those to validate your information altogether. Now we have seen when you have added your blogs, photos are given, but have you picked up photo from any particular link? I wish the link also could have been given, that you have taken it from there, or could have given a credit to that particular site, the reference taken from this site. It really would have added, because now I have to make the blog post public, and I'm not very sure the photos are copyright free or not free. So those are the kind of things that we observed in the document.
Sorry, Alka, I just want to jump in there.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning both those things. But yeah, I didn't touch on that. But yes, proper filing systems are such an important part of any project documentation. And all of it, I've done the same thing, like with dates and version control. Plus, if there are multiple people working on it, then underscore Ramya, underscore this, so you know whose version it is with those edits made. The page numbers is super important. One thing that I do always, which is also why, so if I were to send this presentation to you, I would add a little tab wherever there is an image coming saying from Pixabay. so that it's very clear to you that where this comes from. It is also keeping me free of any accusations of copyright infringement or any of those, all of those. So that's something I always do when I'm using images on my blogs as well. I always put a credit, and Pixabay actually doesn't require you to add credit, but it's a courtesy is what they say. So it's just clearer, because I might not remember 6 months later where did I pick up this image from. Because if I put it right there in the caption via Pixabay, then it's easier to.
Absolutely. So Veena ji, you have, so we need to, yeah, you have any more points to make? Veena ji?
I think you both have covered almost all the points, and what I feel, the things will come when we use it, when we implement it. And for students, I think they are now, they are moving to their careers through this kind of education. So until unless they take it into the real implementation, they will not learn. So I think today's deliberation will definitely give them a good learning. It is not for them, but for all of us. And every day we learn new things. It is not that only this is for students, but when I was going through the fellows' blogs and project orientation, I was remembering my old days when I used to write a lot, and it was giving me a sense to write it again, this blog, because some of the students have written with lot of passion. And I think uh, Abhinav or Abhishek have asked the question. He has written this Abhishek Bharti. He has started writing his blog with the his personal experience. So that was very very important, and that's why he asked that how to link the authenticity and the real life experiences in the blog. And similarly was for this Upma also. She is also writing with the passion. Shweta has also started writing with the passion, and I think today's this workshop, writing workshop, is very very useful. Ramya, thank you so much. Alka, thank you so much. And for all the fellows, I think how much you will put your heart and soul, you will get the result. That is the only thing which I wanted to convey.
Thank you, Veena ji. I think you have said it all, and Ramya, great, and thank you very much. I think we need to do a lot together, and yes, I think 2 years down the line, a lot is required. And
I love that. Thank you for having me. This was fun. It's always good to talk about writing. So
great, and thank you very much. We have used some of your tips in the deliverable document also, so I think that will help them all together. You have seen it, you know?
Yeah.
So great, and yeah. Any last minute thing, Ramya? So
just that. So I think for all the fellows here, please keep writing. I say this to everyone I meet who likes writing. The world needs your writing, whatever it is you have to say. So whether it's reports or whether it's blog posts, keep doing that, because there's so much information that needs to be gotten out there. So please keep writing, and we'll probably connect with each other somewhere. Kahin mulaqat ho jayegi online.
thank you, Ramya. I have one very important thing for the fellows, just one point, that for rest of the deliverable that you have to submit in the down the line, any confusion, any discussions you need to have, please do it beforehand, before the deadline, so that we are very clear and you also kind of know what to submit altogether. So great. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating, and thank you for coming. Yeah. Fine. Thank you, Veena ji. Bye-bye.
Bye, Veena ji. Bye, Alka.
Thank you, Ramya. Thank you, Alka. Bye-bye, fellows.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.